Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan. Adam, we're less than a week away from the Super Bowl. 49ers Chiefs, going to be a huge game. Looking forward to that. We'll probably get down later in the week to maybe preview it a little bit. This podcast, though, as we mentioned, we're turning the page a little bit. We're going to talk later in this pod on offense and in-house free agents and what the Eagles are going to do with some of their guys and who's up on contracts. But we'll also get into what we've been talking about for the last week or two, which is sort of a fluid situation with the rest of the coaching staff. We know the coordinators are in place and they're presiding over each side of the ball, but obviously changes are undergoing with the Eagles on their staff. So looking forward to getting into that here on Inside the Birds, which is presented, of course, by our friends at Ocean Casino and Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. First, we're just going to tell people we've been doing a good job, trying to get these Inside the Birds Ask ITB live streams for our Patreon members. And man, we are getting great show out. We did one last week in Mobile, Alabama, had a lot of great participants in that. And they were privy because we did that on Wednesday night, right before our Thursday pod dropped. They were privy to some of the news and nuggets that we had in the Thursday pod. So when you join
Yeah.
Patreon, right, you sort of get the leg up on all the scoops a little bit beforehand.
Yeah. So we put some stuff, in fact, we put some stuff out there that we don't really put on the pod that is, let's just say it couldn't go there. So yeah, we've got exclusive stuff for you there. And our next live stream is tentatively scheduled for next Wednesday, the 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern. You want to be a member, it's patreon.com/inside the birds.
There you go. And then, like you said, next Wednesday, we'll look forward. Hopefully, I'm still waiting for the time we get like 50 people in there. We're already starting to get up to the double digits, 15, 20. And like I said, you get a little bit of a leg up on all the great scoops. Want to give a shout out and a thank you to WIP's Drive Time show, Jack Fritz and Ike Reese. Adam, I don't know if you heard, but they heard some of our news and nuggets on Sean Desai from the last podcast. They found it interesting enough to discuss it on their show. I think it was Friday, and even played a clip from our podcast through the airwaves. So big shout out to them. We appreciate the
Oh,
love. They said Inside the Birds, mentioned the name, both of our names. So really wanted to say that we appreciated that as well. So let's get into the coaching part of this because there's still news that's going to come and there's still news that has happened. And as you said on a podcast, I want to say that's probably over a week, maybe 2 weeks old now, after the Eagles added Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. You said it would be a major upset if they didn't bring in Doug Nussmeier as the quarterback's coach. He's a guy who's been with Kellen Moore from Dallas to LA and now Philadelphia. Now we look at this and it falls in line, Adam, with what we've talked about getting more experience on this staff, not just at the coordinator level, but also the position coach level. So what do you think jumps out to you about Doug Nussmeier for this Eagles team?
yeah, I would say that he's been there and done that. This is a proven NFL quarterbacks coach. I've talked to people who've worked with him. He's really solid. The only question here is their use of RPOs, him and obviously Kellen Moore, who's going to be his boss here as Eagles offensive coordinator. We're going to look into that because I know Sirianni said him and Steichen had to kind of do some research and kind of learn that. Obviously, did a phenomenal job of it once they knew what they were doing with it. So that's the only thing kind of hanging here with Nussmeier and Kellen Moore is what they can do to get Hurts back to being a dual threat quarterback and getting him back to that elite level in 2022. We're going to look into that. That's a project for us, which we're certainly going to look into. But then the other story was, you know what's interesting with Kellen Moore. We noted that Cliff Kingsbury is a guy they were very high on,
Hmm.
and then I guess Sunday night he agreed to terms with Washington, according to a couple of reports. So we never quite understood, like, why didn't he get the job? We noted that he interviewed well, uh, and Kellen Moore obviously is a guy's more proven at this level in terms of being a play caller. But Kingsbury is a former NFL head coach, had some success, certainly with his pass game. So anything more you could add to that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you and I spoke to some people over the last 3 or 4 days since we were in Mobile and back from Mobile to try to get a better understanding of what's going on. And,
Yeah,
as we were both told, and we understand it, Cliff Kingsbury was the lead candidate at first when this thing started and when they were looking for somebody to replace Brian Johnson. We knew they wanted a downfield passing attack. They wanted someone who was expertise at stressing a field vertically. And certainly Cliff Kingsbury and his offense was known for that. We reported and we were told that the first interview went really well. They were obviously going to go through their process. What we were told since that was that, they had another conversation with Kingsbury where you talk more and then you start to discuss the framework of what it would be like if you're coming in here and you're going to be the offensive coordinator. And somewhere along the line, I think the Eagles really liked his concepts and what he could do offensively, but there was a certain level of autonomy that, from what we understand, they weren't willing to go that far. Maybe it was coaching staff hires that he wanted to make, or complete total control over the offense. And, the Eagles are coming from a place where last year they just didn't have great symmetry among all their coaches, both on offense and defense. And they, in the end, decided they felt that Kellen Moore was going to come in also very good at what they want and what they look for offensively, but just fit in better with the culture that they're trying to establish. That's what we were told. So it was nothing against Cliff Kingsbury. I think from the way we understand it, they were just getting a vibe that if he comes in, it's like his show. And you know how the Eagles are. They've made it clear they're going to let this new offensive coordinator call the plays and preside over the offense. But the offensive coordinator isn't necessarily the head coach. Like you want somebody who's
Yeah.
working in tandem with everybody. And the Eagles are big on collaboration. So they just clearly felt more comfortable, from what we understand, with Kellen Moore and fitting in what they've got. And then that's another guy whose offense that they really liked as well.
Remember, he he was going to be the Raiders OC, and when they started doing the contract, something happened and it didn't happen.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is really interesting that that he didn't want to being the Eagles or Raiders offense coordinator, then agreed to do it with Washington. Of course, they have to get the contract done, but yeah, I just wanted to go over that because I know that we learned something over the last 4 or 5 days, and was hoping you would have an update, which you did. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, and just to stress, like the Eagles have a little bit of a unique situation. They're not the only team like this, but they're going to be guys that you anticipate are going to still be Eagles, no matter who the offensive coordinator is. And I look at a guy like Jeff Stoutland, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not
Right.
saying that this is what anything of a holdup or has anything to do with Kingsbury, but the point is sometimes offensive coordinators get to come in and bring in their entire new staff, and maybe that's what we're going to see with Vic Fangio. We'll talk about in a second. But you and I know Jeff Stoutland's not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
that makes the situation a little different, where you can't just, the Eagles aren't just going to say, you have everything, you can do whatever the heck you want. You still got to play in the sandbox in the way I'm presenting it here. So I
Just one
can't
thing I want to
imagine
add though.
Stout's going to go anywhere.
No, 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 no. Let me add this one thing though. The coaching source I spoke with about the situation said that the one thing you got to understand by any OC who comes in, they have to be aware of what happened with Eagles collapse. That there's no lock that Sirianni will be back in 25.
Hmm.
So if you're Cliff Kingsbury in particular, or any OC, in particular Kingsbury, because he runs a completely different scheme that the Eagles ran, and different from Kellen Moore, you're going to want a quarterback coach who knows your system. You need certain coaches. You have to be able to bring in some of your own guys, not all of them,
Right.
but any OC who's bringing a different system. You got to. It's like, and we're going to get to Vic Fangio in terms of what he's got to look like very quickly. But the bottom line is, you got to give these guys some autonomy. We know he's going to have autonomy totally on the scheme. That's not in question. But you got to have some of your guys come in because they know the scheme. Nick doesn't know the scheme, whether it's um, Kingsbury's scheme or Kellen Moore's. He didn't coach it, so that's why they got to be able to bring some of their guys in. And I could certainly understand that.
Yeah, and you made the best point of all when you said, like, everybody enters 2024 on the hot seat because of what happened at the end of
Yeah,
last year. So if you're a new guy, a new coordinator, and you're taking this job, you want to make sure you have everything that you want, right? Because if you don't feel like you can succeed because you don't get that kind of power to say, I want this guy or I want to do this offensively, then you might also not see the situation as great. The team may sense the same thing, and you just say, hey, sorry, this isn't going to work. So obviously, the Eagles decided on Kellen Moore. They brought in Doug Nussmeier. I think what I think is interesting about this, Adam, is that Doug, before he was the quarterbacks coach in Dallas, he was the tight ends coach for a couple of years for the Cowboys. And it's the one thing that we have already talked about with Kellen Moore and trying to unlock Dallas Goedert in the middle of the field more. is that under Nussmeier, the tight ends for Dallas played fairly well too. They've had, whether it was going back to Jason Witten or even Jeff Swain was there for a little while and played decently. Dalton Schultz came in and rose to a pretty prominent level there. And then Jake Ferguson last year, even though Moore and Nussmeier weren't there, but that was Ferguson's what, second or third year? So he had at least spent 1 year,
Second, yeah,
second
second.
year. So he at least spent 1 year with those two guys. And
Yeah.
so I just think that speaks to the level of what expectations can be here for the Eagles. That, and we've talked about it, getting that third receiver, getting that tight end, getting that middle of the field workable. That's something that both Moore and Nussmeier were able to do in that
Oh,
last year in Dallas. And even with the Chargers, they didn't have a great year, but you've hit on this so many times. Like if Keenan Allen stayed healthy, he was being used as a middle of the field guy. I mean, they were really eating up the
yeah.
middle of the field the first month of the year.
Oh yeah. In fact, he was headed towards 200 plus pass targets. It's just ridiculous. Oh, the middle of the field is big with these guys. So yeah, I'm not worried about that. And that was a real problem last year. It's just, and we're going to get into the Eagles free agents. This is where that comes in. But yeah, that's I'm fascinated to see what this thing's going to look like in OTAs. We learn a lot from OTAs, by the way. We're going back many years of what we see, at least what we think we're going to see, and sometimes we don't see it, but we know at least what it looks like.
Yeah. Would you expect? I mean, we'll never know. And I hate, like, I just philosophically, knowing what they've done and knowing what the Eagles have, do you think we should expect to see better usage for Devonte Smith as far as a true move Z, a guy who can line up on the outside, move inside, attack the middle, be useful on screens? I mean, we know how much of a
Oh,
disaster screens were last year, but I just wonder if this this coordinator, this quarterback's coach can just draw it up a little bit better for Devonte.
oh, sure. I think every single way the scheme's going to be better. I don't think it's not even debatable based on what Moore's done in his past. Yeah, that the person it's a good point though. Personnel usage will be better. You mentioned Goddard, yeah, Devontae Smith. Let's see AJ Brown used a little differently. I understand he had a great first half. It was amazing. Then you saw his numbers tail off. Everyone, the backs of the backfield was an absolute disgrace last season. Really embarrassing the way that they used Swift in the pass game or lack of it. After what we saw in OTAs and particularly training camp, we just didn't see it. That's on Sirianni. I mean, a lot of the problems last season, people are going to point to Brian Johnson all they want, and that's fine. But a lot of it's got to go to Sirianni. That can't happen. That's on him, and he doesn't have any. He has very little say in it now. It's going to be more show. Whatever input he gives, I hope it's helpful. But the bottom line is more showing this ability. You saw how well Tony Pollard did 2 years ago. I'm expecting whoever the running back's going to be to do very very well.
Yeah, there's a good 45-minute clip making its rounds on the internet of Kellen Moore giving kind of a presentation on his offense. And, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole 45 minutes, watch the first 15. Gets into all types of huddles and how they want tempo. He's big on tempo and how to change tempo to better acclimate to your offense, but also put some stress on your defense. And you hear the words motion and shift a lot when he
Shifting
talks
is
offense.
huge,
Like,
but
shifting is big. Yeah.
yep. One thing I want to add before we move on here is there are actually two things within that. I know Hertz is not big on pre-snap movement and motion, but shifting is coming here. They have to do it, and there's absolutely no reason why he can't do it. Nick Foles wasn't really big on it, by the way. That's okay. Figure out a way because they have to be better. And one coaching source who work with more in the past said that that he's one of the few attack offensive play callers. Usually you hear that about defensive coordinators. He's one of the few in the National Football League is about attacking a defense. And he's kind of relentless on it. And we'll get into down the road here what kind of happened when teams sort of not figured stuff out that's kind of overrated. When it didn't work, what happened? We'll get into that from our sources we spoke with. But this is a home run hire. I expect it to be really good. There's no reason why it won't be. Look at the personnel he's got to work with.
Mhm.
Like, that's the thing with Kellen Moore here. He's walking into great personnel. I mean, this is a pretty good situation for him.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And look, on the motion and shifting thing, one of the things we said is we have to figure out how Jalen Hurts feels about that. If he's comfortable with it, if he's not comfortable with it, because that's obviously going to be a big part of it. But I've had a lot of coaches tell me that when they have a player who's not comfortable with doing something, if the coach can do a good job of explaining the benefits of it, and then just saying, "Hey, step outside your comfort zone," and they'll have plenty of time in OTAs and training camp to do it, right? Step outside your comfort zone, and then look what happens. You see what we can do offensively. You can see how it
Sure.
can benefit you. Then often you'll get that player buy-in. So we'll see. I mean, but it's just clear that that's really what this guy wants to do, and that's really what this offense needs. So you hope that everything blends really well there.
Shifting's coming no matter what. It's just a matter of do they do motion. That's the thing that we'll see. See.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the defensive staff because again, with the offense, I'll continue to say I think things are fluid at the moment. We've got to figure out what's going on with some of the other position coaches to see if they're definitely staying, if they're not staying. I think we went through this 2 years ago or last year where there were some changes, and we were like, "Hold on, just because you're not hearing of movement doesn't mean
Yeah.
movement's not going to happen." So we'll let you guys know when we know everything is official. So let's go to the defensive side. Before we do that, let's pause to hear a word from our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right. Another ITB nugget from way back when the season was over and we knew they were going to look for a new defensive coordinator and defensive staff. One of the names we mentioned to watch for in some capacity was Joe Casper. And this is even before they were linked to Vic Fangio because Casper was with the Eagles. Vic spent all of 2022 consulting for the Eagles. He liked what he saw from Joe Casper. So he hired Joe Casper in Miami to be the safeties coach. So not surprising that Casper is coming back to the Eagles to work under Vic Fangio as a safeties coach again. And here's a guy who comes back to an organization that we know liked him already and will now be coaching the same spot. I like it, Adam. He's coached this spot before. It's not like he's some guy they're plucking from college that we never heard of. He coached the safeties down in Miami. He'll come here and do the same thing with the Eagles. And we know that the safety group, it's going to be pretty young depending on what they do, but still Sidney Brown
Who
and
knows?
obviously Reed Blankenship.
Yeah,
It's going
who
to be
knows?
young regardless.
Well, Brown's come back from a torn ACL. It's very questionable whether he'll be ready for week one. Blankenship, as you said, definitely. We'll see on Byard's contract. That's a talk and over the next couple of weeks. They're going to have to get, if they want him back, they're going to have to get through what they think is acceptable for salary and salary cap number. But yeah, here's a guy that, as we first noted some weeks ago, that he had a chance to go to the Cardinals with Gannon and Fangio, and he chose Fangio. And we'll see. We'll see what transpires here in Philly. But there's this coaching staff on both sides of the football is going to look really different from last season, particularly in
Yes.
defense.
Yeah. So on defense, you've got a very experienced defensive coordinator, one of the one guy who's known to be one of the best there is. Although we said on the last podcast, it's not like people down in Mobile were like, "Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a slam dunk for the Eagles." We'll see. It should be better. I mean, at least we can
Well, it
acknowledge
has to be better. How could it not be?
exactly. So you get the adult in the room there. You've got the defensive line coach who's been a defensive line coach for a while. Clint Hurt. He's also been a coordinator. So you got the safeties coach locked in. It still leaves linebackers coach, cornerbacks coach, right? They don't have a cornerbacks coach. Right now, Casper is coaching safeties. DK McDonald, as we know, he interviewed somewhere? Did he take a job in
I think
college?
he's going to college. Yeah, I think he's going to college. Now, Casper's not official yet. I guess there was a slip put in,
Hmm.
right? You just mentioned that it's not official yet, but
Right.
the fact that Miami gave him permission to interview a safeties coach, like, what would be the point of it? He knows Vic. He worked here before. I understand he's under contract. They have to ask permission, but why would he not leave if he's going to take the interview, right?
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were pretty strongly told it's going to happen, but you're right. It is not
Yeah, sure. It's
official yet.
not official. Yeah.
So corners is still a spot, and then I mean, I guess we'll have to see it. Do they continue to do an edge rusher and have Jeremiah Washburn do that? Do they do an outside linebackers coach? I think there are still some questions and some
Yes.
fluidity there left to answer.
Correct. Yep.
All right. And to your point, the staff is going to not only is the coaching staff, but the whole defense is going to be remade. So
Completely different. Just about completely different. I don't know that any of them will return. Most will not be back one way or the other.
mhm.
So we'll see. But they're looking for experience, number one. Two, obviously, if they have experience in the techniques that Fangio uses, that would be an added bonus, and we'll see what it looks like.
Yeah, definitely. We mentioned linebackers coach. They'll have a new. I know they were interviewing for linebackers coach as well. All right, so that is the state of the coaching staff. Now we're going to talk about the offense and some of the players and their contract situations as we get closer to free agency. And it's all, listen, we got the Super Bowl coming up Sunday. Then it's going to be the combine in a few weeks after that. And once we get back, 2 weeks after that, and then once you get back from the combine, we're rip-raring ready to go in free agency. You're going to be out in Vegas, by the way, for Super Bowl, correct?
Yep, you'll be you and Andrew DeCecco for a Wednesday show, and I'll be back for a Friday show. I'll definitely do that from there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the free agent list is interesting. Boy, they've got a lot of free agents. They don't have a lot because if these guys, if all don't come back, except for Jack Stoll, who's a restricted free agent, who almost certainly be back. But boy, depth at certain positions we're going to talk about in a minute here
Mm-hmm.
is skinny. I get it. They have the season doesn't start till September. Totally get that. They've got a lot of work to do on offense.
No doubt about it. All right, we'll get into some of the positions first. Whether your resolution is to save money, eat better, or stress less, HelloFresh is here to help you do all three. Say hello to your most delicious year yet with fresh ingredients and chef-crafted recipes at a price you'll like, delivered right to your door. So you've resolved to actually sit down and eat dinner around the table, but what do you do about those nights when your schedule is jam-packed? You turn to HelloFresh's lineup of quick and easy meals that includes their 15-minute recipes designed to help minimize mealtime stress. We know every time we make a HelloFresh meal, whether it's a quick and easy meal or one of their regular meals, we're just blown away by the freshness, the taste, and the overall quality. We've tried so many options. Every one of them, every single one is tasty and delicious. HelloFresh makes food for meat lovers, seafood lovers, vegetarians, anyone who likes variety. Plus, they have this amazing deal now. If you go to HelloFresh.com/EaglesFree, all one word, you use that code EaglesFree, all lowercase, one word, you get a free breakfast for life. That's one breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. Free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/EaglesFree, one word, EaglesFree. And then you use the same word as your promo code, EaglesFree, all one word. Act now for America's #1 meal kit. I'm really curious, Adam, at what they wind up doing at quarterback, because now that they're in the year, the first official year, I guess, of the Jalen Hurts extension, right? Because this is the first year of it, I believe. But the price tag gets a little higher. This is exactly around the time a few years ago where they decided they needed a cost-efficient backup quarterback and wound up drafting Jalen Hurts. So will they feel like going into 2024 that they're going to be able to afford the Marcus Mariota type deal? Marcus Mariota himself will be a free
5 million.
agent. 5 million. Yeah, which isn't, that's not exorbitant.
It's reasonable.
It's not
No,
crazy.
that's actually the going price between 5 and 7 million. Taylor Heineke was one of the highest paid ones because they knew he was going to start some games where Mariota was just an insurance policy. Now, one thing you probably didn't know is they were very close on Andy Dalton last year in March. They're pretty far down the road, and it just wound up not happening. He wound up signing Carolina because he wanted to be closer to home and so forth, and he relationships with some people there. But so Mariota's a guy that, they going back many years ago, they obviously did their homework on him on the 15 draft. We know how he struggled in training camp, but he got healthy, which is a good thing. Didn't have to play, and now they only have going forward. They only have 2 quarterbacks under contract. Of course, it's Hurts and McGee. So Tanner McKee. So right now, the question is, who's going to be the number 2? That's something that they'll have to look at. We'll get over when we get our free agent list together. We'll go over the available guys. But this show strictly is about who is not under contract, who's up. Any early intel, if we have any. It's obviously a little bit early for this in terms of that, but I'll be interested to see what they do here at the quarterback position, because with Hurts' injury history, and we know he played through the knee injury, give him credit for that. You're just one injury away from potentially having your season derailed. So they got to have a pretty good backup here.
Yeah, and interesting with the Dalton thing, it shows that they're not always necessarily looking for somebody who, quote unquote, can run the same style of scheme, right, as Jalen Hurts, that they're willing to have just a quarterback who's a veteran who can throw the ball, who can do what they need to do. Unfortunately for Marcus Adam, I don't know if he came thinking, yeah, I might get 2 or 3 games to kind of up my stock and go out there and be a starting quarterback again. He really barely played this year, so I'm not quite sure how he'll be viewed on the free agent market.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's had a lot of injuries in his career, but he's super athletic. I remember a couple years ago with the Raiders when he was healthy and he got a chance to play, man, he was explosive. But yeah, I don't know what his future holds. That's a tough one. But they got to get a good, solid veteran quarterback here. Tanner McKee was a nice story to make the roster because he put together good preseason tape. One personal source told me, he goes, "There's no way Philly's cutting him because when you look like he did in in preseason, you put that on tape, other teams see it, and Eagles smartly didn't cut him. They're going to let him try to develop. Maybe he's potentially hurts his back. And by the way, you just mentioned it with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton doesn't really fit that profile, so he could scramble. McKee definitely doesn't have the mobility. So
Mm-mm.
it's just interesting that they went for that quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that we'll probably have fun talking in training camp about this number 2 battle between Tanner McKee and whoever the veteran is. And because teams are now using their practice squads to keep veteran quarterbacks, it just comes down to some interesting roster maneuvering there if Tanner McKee winds up playing really well again. So that'll be a conversation for later in the summer. Let's talk about running backs, which I still amazed that last year that Boston Scott was the highest paid running back on the team. The least used running back was the highest paid running back. No, that's not true. Rashad Penny was actually the least used running back,
Yeah,
but Boston Scott was the highest paid running back on the
it's
team. But only
ridiculous.
I know that just if you wrote a book on all the crazy shit from 2023, that's chapter 1, maybe right there.
So many you know how Jason Vaughn always says know your personnel. Sirianni, I mean, for those of you who are on our live stream, Patreon members, for me, I kind of let it loose. I was pretty angry about some of the stuff when we reviewed the season. And some things that really bothered me. I know it's a small thing. To pay Boston Scott $2 million and do not have a role for this guy, why'd you bring him back?
Yeah. Or how about to lose Christian Ellis? Losing Christian Ellis, not that he
That
was
was a mistake.
great, but look
Yeah.
how bad they got at linebacker to keep Rashad Penny so he could gather cobwebs. I mean, that's just made no
Yeah,
sense.
just so many mistakes by Sirianni. I don't blame. See, I don't. Okay, yeah, obviously they should not have cut Ellis. That was a mistake because he's a good special teams player. He was not a start. He'll never be a starting player. He's got the size and speed, but everything else is in question. But that doesn't matter. He was a guy who's going to be a core special teams player, and you can't cut guys like that.
Yeah.
Thinking he's going to get not claimed. Forget about it. Teams know about that. You don't find guys 6'3" who could run like that on specials. It's hard to find guys like that. But getting back, let's get back to running back. So they only have one running back under contract. It's Kenny Gainwell, who's on the final year of his deal. Swift's up, Scott's up. Penny obviously won't be back. The question is for Swift. They like him, but they walked away from Miles Sanders. They were looking to a cheap deal. So Swift had a good year. We know he's way capable of doing more in terms of the pass game. Now, I wonder, this is what I wonder. If Kellen Moore says, listen, I got a big role for him in mind in the pass game and run game. To me, they got to look to bring him back. They got to communicate really well here how he does with his staff. Okay, if we pursue re-signing Swift, what is his role? Because clearly there was some sort of disjointed part here between whatever they thought they were going to do and what they wound up doing. That was egregious in terms of the pass game, or lack of it.
Yeah. Listen, the Eagles might find the whole benefits of the fact that running backs just aren't getting paid. They're really not. And so maybe the Eagles can do something with DeAndre Swift where they're not breaking the bank, but they're keeping a guy maybe for 1 or 2 years, right? At a decent rate. People think the Eagles don't pay running backs. That's not true. I mean, they paid Brian Westbrook. They paid LaShawn McCoy. They paid DeMarco Murray. I get that was a whole different time era and how he wasn't in charge. But if a guy is going to be accountable and good and productive and versatile, which DeAndre Swift is, he can get some money from the Eagles. They just weren't going to pay Miles Sanders what he wound up making on the market, which it wasn't a ton, but it was just too much for them given what they want to do. But DeAndre Swift has already shown he stayed healthy and he is more versatile. So, and now you've got a new offensive coordinator who can maybe unlock him better. So I would agree with you that people who think that there's no chance, I would say that there's a chance, but we'll just have to see what the market is.
Sure,
Yeah.
chance. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that's the running back situation, and then obviously, Rashad Penny's contract's up. Boston Scott. Do you think Boston Scott's back next year? I mean,
I have no idea. Couldn't even begin to tell you. Because again, it's about communication and having a role. If they don't have a role, why would you resign him if you don't know what his role is? That was a joke.
wouldn't you say that was
Paying
the
him
same situation as last offseason, though, where we were always
but
wondering
but
what
that
his role is?
but he had no role. I mean, it's again what happened during the season. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
They re-signed him for 2 million. Had no role for the guy. That's bad coaching. Like
Yep.
that's on the head coach who called the play. Decides who plays and who doesn't play. That's just not good. I don't get it. Really don't.
All right. Wide receiver. It's pretty clear the issue here. I mean, they have number three wide receivers who all have their contracts expiring. That's Olamide Zaccheaus. He was on a 1-year deal. Quez Watkins was on the last year of his deal, right?
Yep.
Last year,
They're all up.
rookie deal, and Julio Jones, who was signed in the middle of the year to a 1-year deal. So if the third receiver is pretty important in this Kellen Moore offense, the Eagles got some work to do here.
Yeah, before we move on to tight end, here's what I would add to that. This is what Kellen Moore's got to do. Obviously the Eagles know the personnel staff knows this. The third receiver in this offense historically had a decent role. It's not Zaccheaus' fault what happened last season. They just had no. It was just embarrassing. If we listed 20 issues with the offense, this is my top 10. Lack of usage of the third receiver. Yes, we know Sirianni said the passing game goes through the top 3 pass targets. I understand that, but you have a third receiver. When you go 11 personnel, your third guy should get the ball every once in a while. That's the point. That's what Nick missed, and that's where Nick should have gotten through to Brian Johnson, their play caller. Hey, listen, we Zaccheaus is the guy who started for Atlanta. We got to get this guy to football. He could run. He's got really good hands. Let's figure out a way. And this is where communication's got to be better with Nick and his assistant coach. This is again on Nick Sirianni, the head coach, who oversees everything. I know he's not calling the plays, and it's going to be Kellen Moore's show, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have input. And this is where communication's key here. The third receiver's got to get the football here occasionally. And whoever that's going to be, and these 3 guys are up, I can't imagine a scenario where Julio Jones is back. Never say never, but I can't see it. Quez Watkins is not a possession receiver, and Zaccheaus is, and he runs well after the catch, by the way.
Yeah.
Whoever it's going to be, whether it's someone else from another team, they got to have a role for this guy. And I'm sure with Kellen Moore coming on, I'm sure they'll have one.
Yeah, I do feel like OZ would be a natural fit. The quarterback trusts him, by the way. But I mean, the quarterback threw the ball to him in some amazing, 3rd and 11 against Washington, the touchdown that he heaved to him. I forget where you're on the scramble drill. Like he made plays.
It's Tampa.
Against Tampa, right? I mean, there was literally one bad play that sticks out, and it wasn't even on offense. It was special teams when he got pushed back into Boston Scott caused the fumble. True. So I would love to see him get that opportunity in a more functional offense to continue to kind of build on that early rapport that he was able to establish. But you never know. The bottom line is they only have 3 wide receivers under contract that have experience playing for them, and that
actually 2. Actually, 2. It's AJ Brown and Smith, and I'm not counting Covey. He's the 3rd. He is under contract.
That's what I would have said 3. Yeah.
Right. But they only have 2 of real experience.
Right.
So look again. I know they have a while to do it. It's not a secret. They have to address it. And the other 5 guys are all reserve free agent, reserve / future players. So they got a lot of work to do at this position. Now, here's one for you. Would you give Covey, because we know how great he is as a punt returner, but he's got really good true area quickness. You and I saw this 2 years ago, and they never wound up really. Late last season, they gave him a couple reps. Would you give him a chance to compete for the slot job?
Well, sure, because he's going to be on the team anyway, right? And he plays the slot. I mean, I feel like he does get a chance. He just hasn't been able to win the job. I mean, he's a slot receiver in OTAs and training camp. That's where they ran him. And he's under contract. So he's going to be on the team in OTAs and summer camp. So he will get a chance. Now, if you're asking, are they going to make it a serious chance? I hope so. I mean, it's going to be year 3 for him. He's got a good chance to make the team because he is a very good punt returner. So he really should be on the team. Yeah, he's on the team.
It's not a question of that. Yeah.
Right. Now, if you're signing a 1-year slot receiver who's got a record in this league of being a pretty good slot receiver, then I understand if he doesn't get that opportunity. But the beauty of signing guys to 1-year deals, veterans, is that you don't owe them anything other than, like with Rashad Penny, barely played, right? The chance to compete. You don't get married long term for too much money on guys who don't warrant that just because you need to fill a hole. So yeah, I would like to see Britton Covey, who has really nice short area quickness, get a chance to compete at the slot. I do have some skepticism whether he can be a guy who can play at 60-65% of the time because of his size, but let's see.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Agree.
no, I definitely think he'll have an opportunity. All right, we'll get into tight ends in a second. First of all, we know that whoever loses the Super Bowl, whether it's San Francisco or Kansas City, they're not going to be happy about it. It really sucks to lose the Super Bowl. You know what also sucks is trying to find good tickets online. That's why you need Game Time. It's the fast, easy way to buy tickets for sporting events, concerts, and theater shows near you. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, and right now on the Game Time app, you're 2 taps away from tickets to see any of the local pro sports teams, any of the local college teams, college basketball really heating up, and any comedy acts or concerts. The best part is Game Time offers event cancellation protection and job loss protection. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They got the all-in prices that show you the total up front, and you can see the view from your seat, so you know exactly what you're getting when you get to checkout. Game Time's obsessed with helping you save money. They got the zone deals that let you pick the section while Game Time picks the seats for the best savings. And then there's the Game Time guarantee. You find the tickets in the same section and row for less money, Game Time's going to credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redeem code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, the tight end situation is kind of interesting. You know, they traded for Albert O, another guy that really didn't get a whole lot of
Didn't work.
time. Yeah, had some upside. So we'll see what happens with him and Jack Stoll because he was a priority free agent or
No,
undrafted
restricted.
free
He's
agent.
restricted. Yeah.
Yeah, he will become a restricted free agent, which means the team will have to tender him at a
Yep.
certain level to bring him back. They usually do that with guys that they've had play this much for them who are undrafted players. They usually tender these guys. It doesn't
Good
cost
story.
a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah. I would assume he'll get the low tender. We'll look into it. But I would assume he get the low tender. And then yeah, Alberto's up. He's unrestricted. Stoll's restricted. The only 2 tight ends under contract from last season are Calcaterra and Goddard. They'll be back. They do have a couple guys as reserve / future tight ends.
You liked one of
Jenkins and
those guys, didn't you? One of those reserve tight ends.
well, actually, no. Yeah, I know you're talking about Jacob Harris. They're listing him as a receiver. He's played tight end and receiver in his career. He was a tight end in college at Stanford or Central Florida. I'm sorry. He's a big guy, just under 6'5", but he had an ACL injury years ago. He's a guy we're going to take a look at in OTAs, but they have some work to do with this position before we close this out. We'll get to all line in about a minute, but they've got some work to do with this position.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Much like I talked about the Jalen Hurts thing, it was right around after the Super Bowl when they had Zach Ertz on the team, Adam, but they who was the guy who threw the Philly special touchdown? Trey Burton.
Yep.
He wound up being a free agent after the season, and then Brent Selleck retired after the season. So they were only basically down to Zach Ertz and maybe somebody from the practice squad. They didn't have a lot of depth there, and that's when they drafted Dallas Goedert, never probably realizing that Goddard was going to be as good of a blocker and then really very soon challenge Ertz for the #1 spot. But you do wonder if this will be a position that they're going to look to, you know, day 2, day 3, where they feel they need to like bolster the depth again.
They need work here. Yeah, they absolutely need work at that position. Now I know that Kellen Moore plays heavy 11, not a lot of 12, but it doesn't mean you can't have depth. And Calcaterra is kind of a question mark in terms of what his role could be. He's tried to block, you know, he's shown the willingness to do it, but he's not a big guy. Stoll's a very good wide tight end. Doesn't offer a lot in the pass game, and Goddard is a good two-way player. So again, they got some work to do.
They do. All right, let's finish this off with O-line. Not an issue as far as starting, but depth. Roderick Johnson and Jack Driscoll are guys whose contracts will be up. So those are some depth pieces there. But we also know, you know, it's looking like Jason Kelsey's not going to be back. So they'll have to figure out some maneuvering there. You imagine Cam Jurgens will be the center And then right guard is, again, for the second straight year, going to be a nice little competition. Yeah, they drafted Tyler Steen last year. This is a good draft for linemen. I'm just telling you. It's mostly it's a very good offensive tackle draft, but we know the Eagles like to draft tackles with guard versatility and vice versa. So this will be kind of a fascinating look at see what they do, especially from a depth standpoint, because they like to be deep on the O-line.
All right, so Sewell Pettis contract's up. Driscoll, as you mentioned, Roderick Johnson's up. They have a lot of work to do here. Fred Johnson will be the backup swing tackle. If Driscoll doesn't come back, I would assume that they have some interest in bringing him back. Don't forget, Tyler Steen had to learn a new position. He wasn't even clear. He wasn't even close to being ready. He did get the one start in, but they've got a lot of work to do here, man. On this backup offensive line, the depth here is certainly in question. I know they've got a lot of time, but they've got some work to do here.
Fascinated to see what happens to Driscoll. We've seen Eagles.
Yeah.
We've seen Eagles backups who've started a little bit, be able to go, like a Nate Herbig, been able to go somewhere. And who else? There was somebody else that was a backup.
Well, Big V made Big.
Yeah, but he wanted to be. Yeah,
you're
right. You're right. Big V. That's a great point. He started more games in 1 year than Driscoll has.
Yeah.
But Driscoll has a bunch of starts under his belt now. And
Yeah,
offensive line play is terrible around the league.
Yeah, you know what's funny about Big V is how poorly he looked in the beginning, and then once he got confidence, he became a very serviceable player. Got moved to guard with the Lions, and unfortunately, he's been hurt a lot. But he got paid $10 million a year.
Unbelievable, unreal. Wait, is he still starting for the Lions? No.
Well, he got hurt. He got put on IR, and I we'll see. I find it hard that he'd be back, but
right.
The good thing for him is at least he could be a serviceable backup because he could play guard tackle.
Yeah. By the way, Eagles got some competition now for title of best offensive line because that Lions offensive line was great. And they were in the playoffs. They were great too. So Eagles, as you just said, what's always made them good is not just being great starters, but also having great depth. So they got a lot of work to do here.
Before we get out of here, you know who wound up? I think he started for Jonah Jackson, Owusika.
Yes.
Coyote.
Yes. Yeah. Coyote Owusika. Yeah.
Coyote. Yeah. Coyote. However he says his name. But then there's that Dan Skipper guy, number 70, who looked about 50, but he's only like 28 or 29 or something. Yeah. Who's bald number 70, who's actually 6'9".
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the league for seemingly forever. But yeah, wow, boy, the Eagles have some challenges here. We'll see. Well, they've got plenty of time to get this done, but they got some challenges ahead.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll be talking about that all throughout the next few podcasts throughout the offseason. Oh, by the way, big day today, right now, for many readers on InsideTheBirds.com. It is the mock draft 1.0 from Andrew DeCecco. So I know everybody gets so excited about Andrew's mock drafts, and it's amazing how often he hits on one or two guys that the Eagles wind up picking. So you want to make sure you read Andrew DeCecco's 1.0 mock draft. And also want to thank real quick our intern who mainly does analytics, but he's also been a coach at Penn State, Sam Finkel, who did a nice job down in Mobile, giving our readers the skinny on some of the standouts there. So you can check that out on InsideTheBirds.com as well. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation.